So my name is Jenna, and I'm the Education and Community Engagement Manager at Donorbox. And of course, joining me today is Sarah Ali. Many of you may know her already. So for over 10 years, Sarah has helped organizations raise money online, and her clients have ranged from local activist collections to the world's largest NGOs. She is absolutely a sought-after speaker, someone that we've been cheerleading with and for since we decided to collaborate. She is an amazing facilitator and presenter and really seeks to actively push the sector to create more innovation and equitable giving programs. And she is the lead consultant and founder at SA Digital, a Muslim woman-owned and operated full-service fundraising agency, and the executive director of the Muslim Philanthropy Network. We are so excited to have you all. We are in great hands today. I don't know how you have time for all of it, Sarah. It's amazing. And today we will be talking about how to double your fundraising this Ramadan and beyond by making every day a chance to engage with donors, right? By the way, this webinar is being recorded. We've got you covered. Don't you worry. And you will receive that recording via email next week from us, from Donorbox. By the way, we also have a couple of Donorbox team members in the chat today. So we've got Lindsay, Bobby Joe, and Eduardo to answer any Donorbox related questions throughout the session so that we can have a really focused Q&A at the end. All right. We're going to take a moment to introduce Donorbox, and then I'm going to pass it over after that. Actually, I have a few questions for you after that. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Donorbox, we help nonprofits of all sizes grow and thrive. More than just a platform, we are a partner who truly understands what it takes to create lasting impact. And we partner with those who understand that as well. So from easy to use fundraising tools to expert support, we make it easy to find new donors, connect with them like never before, and create a steady revenue for your organization so you can build a sustainable future. That's what we all want, is that sustainability. And so far, we've helped more than 100,000 organizations across the globe raise over $3 billion in donations. So you can learn more or sign up at donorbox.org. And you can connect with Sarah on LinkedIn. She just dropped the link in the chat as well.
Sorry, Jenna, I'm like moderating the chat while you're chatting.
I love it. This is just like teamwork makes the dream work.
And, and thanks to everyone who's dropping in their name and info. Like I said, if you want to network with each other, stay connected after this, you can connect with me, connect with each other. Community building is very much the name of the game when we're talking about these kinds of things. Sorry, Jenna, I'll kick it back to you. I know we've got some questions to start where we're at.
I love it. I want this to be more than just that one-way conversation, right? We want to keep it going. You're the perfect person to do that. So speaking of, we've got a few questions to kick off today's session. So first, go ahead and chime in the chat. You can drop an emoji, how you're feeling, or you can just let us know in plain words. Have you already started your Ramadan fundraising campaign? Where are you at? Have you? How are you feeling?
I know a couple of you folks may have. Yeah, Justine, Faye, I knew it. I was waiting. I was like, Faye's got her chime in here. Jamil, nice, amazing, perfect. Anyone hasn't started yet? And it's okay, I was talking to Jenna earlier that sometimes, like when you're doing year-end fundraising, sometimes you miss Giving Tuesday and you just launch something for tax time and you still see revenue. So if you haven't started, that is okay. Don't feel shy. But you also don't have to out yourself in the chat if you don't want to.
This is a judgment-free, safe space, you guys.
Very much. Amazing, Tahmina. Nice to see that.
Excellent. And next one for you. What is your strategy to keep donors engaged and to combat that donor fatigue? Do you feel like your donors are feeling donor fatigue?
Donor fatigue, and we're going to talk about it a bit during the conversation, is like, I kind of dread the term donor fatigue, but I know we hear it a lot. And I know in Ramadan is a big asking season. So if you have anything you want to share, anything that you think that you're like, I'm using this and this is really smart, please drop it in the chat. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. We're, just excited to have you here and excited to learn and grow together for the season.
Absolutely. Well, You know what, Sarah? I will go ahead and pass it over to you to lead us into the day's agenda and all the good things that you have in store.
Amazing, folks. I'm really, really excited. I'm excited to see some familiar faces, excited to connect with people we haven't had a chance to connect before. Absolutely, Jamil. Donor fatigue is definitely, traditional. Sometimes how we perceive this, like traditional fundraising, may, have that element of maybe, are we asking too much? Do people feel uncomfortable? Are they feeling like they're being asked by too many people? Totally agree. And so, Jamil and others, if you're here because you want to launch a brand new Ramadan campaign in the next few days, identify and adjust your existing Ramadan campaign's potential pain points, because a lot of folks, as you said, we've already started, and then 2x or 3x your Ramadan giving this year, you're in the right room. So that's good. It's not one of those situations in university where you end up in a lecture hall and it's nuclear physics at the front and you were there for English Literature 101 and you have to sit through the call. This is not that place. So we're all in the right room. Yeah, Faye, we'll have that conversation. That's definitely happened. So what are we going to do today? We are going to start really just lay out a couple of basic definitions so we're all on the same page, likely only relevant to non-Muslim organizations. And then we will begin with the most crucial part of good fundraising, which is understanding your donors, their motivations, their choices. And through this, we will discuss the Ramadan fundraising strategies and tactics that will help you reach advocates, raise money, and scale impact. So we're looking here at 2xing or 3xing your Ramadan giving this year. Then, inshallah, we actually want to hear from you folks. We're going to end this session with a live hands-on Ramadan campaign optimization activity so that you can take something actionable, a way to leverage immediately that's just tailored to your specific pain point or situation. Or if there's no pain points or challenges, ways that you can kind of find low effort, high impact tweaks to optimize and improve the great work that you're already doing. I do want to say that I'm really grateful to have the chance to share this information and knowledge with you folks. I believe that education is a charity, that it should be given regularly to strengthen our communities to do better what we do best, which is make impact. And I want to recognize that, a lot of this information are things that I have received from, my peers and my mentors in the Muslim Philanthropy Network. Follow us on LinkedIn and check us out online if you are looking to connect in that capacity. And also, want to say that I'm grateful to just have the opportunity to live and work in Canada, which is stolen land, on stolen Indigenous land. So I'm grateful for the chance to be here and present to you from Toronto today. So let's get into some basic definitions so we're all on the same page. For the non-Muslims in the room, Zakat is essentially the 2.5% wealth tax for Muslims on all standing wealth. So that means a charitable tax on all of your assets, not just your liquid cash. So if you imagine that in your own life, kind of think back to your own your bank account, and maybe your capital assets or equity. This is not really a small amount, even for donors who are not giving at the higher levels. The most important thing that you need to know is that Zakat funding is 100% programming. It cannot go to fundraising. It cannot go to staff. It can't go to capital upgrades to your building or these sorts of things. There are 8 specific categories that you need to meet in order to be able to collect Zakat. Zakat needs full transparency in reporting and ideally should be scholar approved. So you can see these very specific beneficiary categories. If you haven't begun your Ramadan fundraising and you want to do Zakat fundraising, which is where a lot of giving occurs, you have to make sure you've looked up all the steps required to show that your Zakat fund is eligible. And the best way to do this is to just reach out to a local scholar or the masjid in your region, so the mosque in your region, and then ask them to audit your books and issue a statement of support. If you are not able to become Zakat eligible, we're 8 days into Ramadan, I know a lot of us are feeling the crunch, then you are going to want to ask for what is called Sadaqah. Now, Sadaqah is a voluntary act of everyday charity that is recommended to increase your imans, your faith. It actually doesn't just refer to money. It can also include like an act of kindness. It can include smiling at a neighbor, even when you feel really, really cranky. For me, I live in a multi-generational home. My parents, my mother is going through a cancer battle, and so for me, some of my sadaqah includes being very, very kind and there and available for my mother, and living in kind of ways that help her out. So, even an act of kindness or ways that you treat your family or your friends can be considered sadaqah. A key term to keep in mind and to note, especially for non-Muslim organizations or non-Muslims in the room, is this term over here, and you can pronounce that sadaqah jariyah, which means charity with a lasting impact, and specifically voluntary charity with a lasting impact. So I have actually a former client, Islamic family, who they're based in Canada, and they just released this really lovely series on the difference between zakat and sadaqah in this like very incredibly useful way. So they framed it as zakat is your kind of emergency, immediate life needs, and sadaqah is like an investment in the community in a very sustainable way. What's nice about Sadaqah, especially for non-Muslim organizations hoping to begin their Ramadan campaigns, but maybe don't have the time to get Zakat eligible in 8 days, many of which are not working days, there are no programmatic considerations here. So if you still want to reach and engage your Muslim audiences, then this is what you should be asking for. So now on to the good stuff. And Jenna's monitoring the chat as well as the Donorbox team backstage. So if you have a question, if you want to raise your hand, if there's things that you want to say or do, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I know I speak quickly, so I'll do my best to not go too quickly. And if there's something that's not making sense, let's have a conversation. So then, how do donors make the choice to give? As many of you know, Muslims, and especially those of you who are Muslims, we don't actually typically come from a culture of asking. We're meant to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all things. So asking can actually feel kind of uncomfortable, or we trend in the other direction where we only ask. But what is interesting is that we really, really do come from a culture of giving. Like I just shared these two, very fundamental pillars of the faith that are surrounding philanthropy and surrounding a culture of philanthropy and a culture of giving. One thing that we do know is that donors of faith statistically in any region give more than any other type of donor. And as we'll discuss in this presentation, and I've already alluded to, every Muslim is religiously obligated to give that 2.5% of all assets in charity every year. But sometimes the biggest barrier between your donors and their generosity is just how easy we make it for them to give. Our goal, so I want you to take a look here at the slide. This is from Next After, a great institute that does really good research. I would really recommend you check out some of the research that they're doing. They have called this the donor mountain. So at the top here of your donor mountain is the macro decision. This is the ultimate decision to make a gift. And this is really the goal of a good fundraising or donor experience that has an appeal aspect to it. So to get to that top of the mountain, though, there are many little micro points that you can see until you get to that macro point. So, for example, I send you an email, and you can see here is your little email at the bottom of the mountain. What is that first micro decision you need to make? The first question is, am I going to open this email? After you've opened it, you then have to kind of make a decision is like, am I going to read it? Sometimes you open something, archive it, move on, just keep going through the inbox. As you know, it's kind of that swipe mentality that we've become very behaviorally conditioned into. Then the next question, once you're in the email is, should I click? Should I click and get to this landing page? And so really every step on this donor mountain or donor journey has the potential for a donor to say yes or no. If they say yes, they're moving one step closer to that conversion, that macro decision point. If they say no at any point, you've lost them. So I want to break down these micro decision moments really clearly in a way that helps us improve our fundraising overall, and especially, within this month, holy month of Ramadan, when rewards and blessings are multiplied when giving occurs. So, the first cliff that your donor is really encountering is, okay, why should I give? Why should I click? Why should I do anything here? We all do things that we care about, but how do we begin to care? Researchers at McMaster University found that giving motivations are specifically stimulated through stories and storytelling. They found that when using fMRI imagery to examine people reading short one-sentence stories, no matter what form of storytelling was used, brain networks that were activated were the theory of mind networks, which were activated by the character's intentions, motivations, beliefs, emotions, and actions. And it makes sense. As a Muslim, we know that the Quran and the Hadiths are collections of parables. If you're a non-Muslim, you will know, and for it's kind of universal experience, that the first thing we teach our children are stories. Stories give meaning to our societies. They show us what we believe. They shape how we understand this world and our place in it, who we are, and that shapes our morals and values. So stories give us tools to make choices in life, and they motivate us to act. Stories compel us to act because they elicit emotions. But as you can see here, this list of emotions, not all emotions are the same. There are emotions that inhibit actions and others that motivate us to act. So if you look at this list of emotions, we've got inertia, so there's no forward progress here. We're stuck. We've got apathy, which means like we don't, I don't care. We have fear, so I'm scared. Something's not good here. Isolation, I feel disconnected, maybe from myself, from my family, from my community, my friends, from others, from organizations who are talking to me, and self doubt, or others' doubt. I can't do it. You can't do it. We can't do it. Now think about it. When you feel any of these five emotions, do you, I don't know, go to a protest? Do you plan a vacation or a trip? Like, do you make purchases? No. You climb into the bed, you go under the covers. It's a flight, fawn, or freeze response and is largely inhibitive of action. On the other side of the coin, we have emotions that encourage action, a feeling of urgency. Okay, something needs to happen right now. A feeling of anger at maybe an identifiable enemy. And I know a lot of folks in the current political moments are identifying enemies and feeling angry at them. A feeling of hope, a feeling that, oh my God, something is going to happen. It's going to be really beautiful, and I'm excited and I'm hopeful for it. A sense of being connected to yourself, to other people, and to something maybe bigger overall. And that doesn't have to be faith. But overall, at the end of it is this feeling of belief in something, in values, in people, and in a future that can be made, that is possible and can be made possible through our actions. How then do these feelings change? Our emotions of inaction, for example, these ones at the top, don't go away because someone tells us they should. They go away when we start to feel other emotions. And to elicit other emotions, we have to tell inspiring stories. Um, Many of us will know, and I know there's a lot of seasoned fundraisers in this room, that storytelling is at the core of fundraising. And a good story can spur someone to action because suddenly the cause is more than just some abstract idea. It's a real situation affecting real people, like these really cute children that are on the slide. I feel something. So we're going to go through the 6 elements of good storytelling, and I'll be sharing with you some immediate ethical storytelling and storytelling practices and stories that you can share with your communities today and throughout your Ramadan fundraising to elicit the right emotions, the right impulses, and connect your Muslim donors to the joy of giving. The 6 elements of good storytelling. This is as follows: the hook, the broken world, the vision where you show, don't tell, a new world that you're building, the choice, the ask, and the story of us. I'm going to briefly touch on each, and then we're going to jump into some actual Ramadan stories you can tell in the lead up to Ramadan and throughout the month. And I want you to remember when you look at this that you actually don't have to tell the stories of a single individual beneficiary, donor, volunteer, board member, staffer. You can use composites made up of several people's experiences paired with stock imagery to protect identities, because storytelling, it needs to be a choice. It should never be we took someone's story and we raised money off of it. So to do composite storytelling, they do have to be real composites. So they have to be real composites of real people and real experiences that are that have kind of are sitting in the driver's seat of making that storytelling decision. And the reason is that made up stories actually just do more harm than good for your organization and its credibility and ethics. And so, from a storytelling perspective and how to do it well, I really encourage you to screenshot this slide and keep it for later, or just review this recording at your convenience. So, very quickly, the hook grabs the attention of your audience, connecting to emotions, interests, etc. The broken world tells the story of the world that we're in. What's the problem? Why is a gift necessary? What are you trying to solve? And this is a really good place to put your unique selling proposition, your unique organizational proposition, explaining why what is the problem you were created to solve. The vision, so the new world that you're building, and this is like your kind of really special, like inspirational point where you can be bold and visionary. The choice, so this is a recognition that no future is written in stone, and outcomes very much depend on choices. So these can be a moral choice, a choice to be a part of collective, part of a positive process, and you really want to root this in your values and your work. The ask, so asking people the clear call to action, about, and that links their actions to the vision. And then the story of us. And this is one that a lot of us miss. And this is about building community and belonging. And especially when we're talking about fundraising with or from a diverse, donor base, staff, board, beneficiaries, etc., recognizing the power of community and belonging by telling the story of that larger group or that larger movement is really, really crucial, because collective action is, as we know, bigger than individual action. So let's put this into practice during Ramadan. Let's see how this plays out when we're talking about ethical, trauma-informed, and really inspiring storytelling that motivates people to move. This first story is a sample that might be used for a Muslim organization. So you'll notice that we're following the framework. So we've got the hook, the story, the offer, and then the story of us. And you'll notice that by following this framework, the story is very emotional. It's impactful. It's inspiring. I would recommend this be a great first week of Ramadan email, WhatsApp, or SMS. If you're using both, I would send this full story by email and then a teaser by SMS or WhatsApp to folks that are both on the email and the SMS or WhatsApp list, saying like, "Oh, I just shared this beautiful story with you by email, and you don't want to miss it." So here's how the story goes, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit if I can. Yeah, there we go. So the hook is a Ramadan story you don't want to miss, and I am always my own donor, so I always say, "Dear Sarah," "Dear Sarah." Janine, last name change for privacy, was concerned about Islamophobia affecting her 5-year-old daughter Alicia. With the new executive orders on the news at her home, her daughter began to ask her, "Mom, do they hate us?" So, Janine decided to enroll her daughter in the Yasin Islamic Academy to give her an education that makes her feel safe in her identity, a feeling every Muslim child in America deserves. Sarah, Muslim children across America are now scared to go to school under this administration. Without community members like you to support them, we can't make sure our doors are open to every child who deserves to feel safe no matter who's in power. Will you make a special Ramadan donation to help children like Alicia feel safe? Because of community members like you taking a stand, Yasin Islamic Academy is able to support 150 students every year, and this movement is only growing as more of us join in. Jazakallah for your commitment to our Muslim children. So you can see like the flow is really clear. This like it's got all the pieces: hook, broken world, story of us. I'm actually have to go back and remember this. Yeah, the choice, the ask, the vision, the choice, the ask, and the story of us. And it flows in a really, really beautiful way. And you can also see this an empowering story. It's not talking about poor Janine or poor Alicia or I don't know, amazing Yasin Islamic Academy. It's a beneficiary informed story that's true to human experience. Could be a composite, could be a real one. So this second story is designed for non-Muslim organizations. So you could also send this week one of Ramadan, but just so you know, if you are launching your first Ramadan campaign or launching your Ramadan campaign as a non-Muslim organization, there are a few steps you want to take first, which I'll share shortly. I want you to notice that the email is told about an actual Muslim donor. So this story or storytelling might work well for an actual Muslim donor, an actual Muslim board member, staffer, or even community supporter. You really want to make sure you go and get their go ahead and a real quotation if possible that is empowering and allows them to feel like they are playing a part in this mission as a member of your community. So this is, again, to Sarah, how Zakat and Sadaqah changed Janine's life? And you can see that's like very hooky, like you read that and you're like, oh, wow, that's really nice. I want to read that. Dear Sarah, Janine, name change for privacy, is proud to have been a Muslim donor to the Children's Nutrition Program for the past 5 years. The children in New York State are dealing with poor nutrition. Most of them can't even identify healthy foods from a list. They're used to eating crackers with ranch dressing for dinner, and it's making it hard for them to learn and grow. That's why this Ramadan, she has decided to give her zakat and sadaqah to support children to get healthy, nutritious meals so they can focus on learning. Ramadan is all about feeding the hungry, and I believe no child should be hungry this month in my own backyard. Sarah, this Ramadan, Janine and the Muslim parents of children struggling in our state need your zakat or sadaqah to help them get nutritious meals so they can learn and grow. Will you help them? Because of community members like you, the Children's Nutrition Program has delivered 5,000 meals a month to families who can't afford to feed their kids healthy food. This movement is growing every single day as people like you share their zakat and sadaqah with those who need it most. Thank you for being a part of the movement for healthy children. Thank you for everything you do. So you can see like there's ways to do this where a Muslim voice is included. It is empowered. It is a reflection on programming. It's true to the experience of the organization. I mean, certainly this is a made up a shop. It's not a real client. But they're talking about their impact overall that is non Muslim specific, but recognizing that zakat and sadaqah can go to anyone and should go to and there's a strong tradition of caring for your neighbors in Islam and really in all Abrahamic religions. So kind of keeping those feelings in mind, this sort of story is something that you might be able to send as a non-Muslim org first week of Ramadan after you've launched. There's a couple things you have to do, as I mentioned, before you get into that point. So we will go through that really, really shortly. Now, the third story that I want to share with you leads into something really interesting. So we are 8 days to Ramadan. And Muslim-led giving platforms, like crowdfunding platforms like Launch Good and My 10 Nights, have already been asking their massive donor bases to start their giving today. So that means that we have 8 days from today until end of next week to warm up our audiences and prep for appeal season. So this is a really beautiful, and I'm not saying this because I wrote this. I'm saying this because I've seen it work. This is a really beautiful warm up email, SMS, or WhatsApp, and it's also something you could run as a lead generating ad starting today to drive traffic to your site and email list before you begin asking. So the key with this story is that you're offering a donor value before jumping into an ask. So thinking about, why should I give? If that's the first cliff, you start to think, okay, well, maybe I'll give because there's something coming back that I see value. So for non-Muslim organizations, again, before you send this or any other communications, you need to identify and segment out your Muslim audience. And the way that you might do that, at SA Digital, we recommend sending an interest-based survey and then something like this as your second Ramadan touch point. I will share thoughts for non-Muslim orgs on how to make a survey like that successful later in the presentation. So here's how the story goes. The hook is 5 days to Ramadan. So I envision this comes out on Monday. A small gift for you. Dear Sarah, getting ready for Ramadan can feel like everything is happening at breakneck pace. It's so easy to get overwhelmed in planning, especially with everything that has happened this year. That's why we're sending you a handy Zakat calculator to make your Ramadan less stressful so you can focus on what matters: your family, your community, and your ibadah. And ibadah means prayer or a dedicated practice towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Using this calculator, so you're giving a free Zakat calculator, you'll know exactly what to give this month to ensure you fulfill your obligations without headaches or the fear of making a mistake. I mean, like I said, it's a 2.5% tax on standing wealth. It's easy. There's a lot of math there, and there are calculators available online. But the giving the donor something that they know they're going to have to do gives them that value and makes them feel like they've gotten something useful out of the interaction as opposed to just being asked. So, and then again, we've got that kind of story of us. You are an essential part of the movement of Muslims in Atlantic Canada, making sure our children have a place to get a spiritually sensitive and world class education. Thank you for your part in making this a reality. We are grateful for you every single day. And so that actually leads me into why I ended up doing this webinar. So I partnered with Donorbox this year because Donorbox actually just launched a Zakat calculator to allow our donors to quickly and easily calculate the total Zakat they owe. And a lot of charities have had to create their own bespoke ones. A lot of organizations are just relying on that donors will know or building custom integrations. If you're a self-start organization with not a huge tech team or you don't have the ability to do this, you can actually use this built-in Zakat calculator to quickly and easily calculate Zakat. So for Muslim charities, you know that this is crucial and that prospects are Googling this when it's time for them to give. So if you do what we did in that last email, which is give them something they need and make their life easier, guess what? They are way more inclined to support. So you can include this calculator in emails like in the last story, use it as gated content on your website and on social media. So for example, download your free Zakat calculator or comment to get your free Zakat calculator. I'm really bullish on ManyChat funnels right now. Please message me or connect with me after this if you want to use ManyChat. Jenna, I know you dropped, or Lindsay dropped a note in the chat about the Zakat calculator. Jenna, did you want to jump in and say anything here, or should I move into the next cliff?
Keep on rocking and rolling. I think the next clip is great.
Okay, amazing. And folks, if I am moving too quickly, if you have questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, please drop them in the chat. I am very good at multitasking. It's one thing about being a Muslim woman or a woman overall is you really learn to do a million things. And then in digital, you've got 1,000 channels. So doing things at once is good. So I will read your comments, questions, concerns, address them, and keep moving. Awesome. So we've just determined, okay, why should I give? The next question, on a lot of people's mind is it easy to give? And and we talked a bit about donor fatigue at the very beginning of this discussion, but I feel like I hear the words donor fatigue too much. As I believe it was Jamil who mentioned, donors certainly get fatigued when they are only asked. It makes sense, at Masjid, we ask every single night, and especially during the last 10 days. And so this is why, smart Ramadan fundraising strategies vary asks with stewardship content, with cultivation content, and make it easy as possible to give without asking. For practicing Muslims, Ramadan is very, very busy and you are tired. You have, you've not eaten all day and then you eat in a larger amount. And the last 10 nights are the busiest nights of them all. Um, my 10 nights, which is a giving automation platform that a lot of Muslim shops are, quite familiar with, who pioneered this phenomenon of automating your last 10 nights of giving and the daily Sadaqah phenomenon. They did some testing, and that message testing revealed that the number one reason that donors are choosing to automate their giving is because of ease, because of how busy family obligations, community obligations, people's weekends in Ramadan are booked like 3 weeks before the month because iftar season is coming. So to automate giving gives, again, what like we have started talking about, giving your donor value before running and jumping into asks. So let me, I'm going to pass it over to Jenna. We know that daily sadaqah and giving every day can significantly multiply your blessings for your donors and the impact for your organization. We know that, people won't maybe going to the mosque every single month, and that getting asked every day can feel overwhelming and uncomfortable for donors who want to share their generosity but don't want to be bombarded with reminders to give. So I'm wondering, maybe Jenna, you can help us out here, walk us through how do you automate your daily giving or your last 10 nights?
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, it's such an important point. You don't want to overwhelm your community. You don't want to overwhelm your audience with too many asks during an already busy and sacred time, right? And in any time, we don't want to be inconvenienced, or we don't want to have to get up and grab our wallets. I have a cart full of things that I could get up and order that I don't because it's inconvenient, right? So the key here is just to be really strategic and make giving effortless. This is active listening, right? You're listening to your community and you're being respectful of everything that's going on in their lives. And that's where we can help with that. So we have created an easy to use set of donation tools. Our tools are made with fundraisers for fundraisers. We have had our boots on the ground. We get it. We understand it, right? And you can use this to encourage extra daily giving without the extra effort for both you and your donors, right? Because your time is just as valuable as theirs. You've got a million things going on. So we've created multi-step donation forms that offer flexible recurring giving options, making it so simple for donors to automate their daily sadaqah and throughout Ramadan, those last 10 nights especially, and even beyond. That's the hope, right? And the best part is that it's designed to be lightweight for you so that you are not bogged down with the extra admin work. So the simple overview is this. You can customize your donation form that lives on your beautiful website, or you can host it on our Donorbox page with recurring intervals like daily, weekly, or monthly, right? And then I would suggest highlighting daily as the default option. So it will default to that and have a little heart next to it as well. Or you can even make it the only option, right? So donors can easily commit to consistent giving. This is a gentle nudge, right? This is behavioral economics at its best, right? You are nudging them towards this desired action, but you're making it so easy for them. And then again, you can embed your form on your website or host it directly on Donorbox. So whatever works best for your campaign. And it really is a simple but powerful way to just maximize generosity during this time. But I'm sure you may be thinking, okay, this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in action, right? So we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. So take a look at this example. The donation form you see here was used by one of our top Islamic organizations to raise over $23,000 through daily automated giving during the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And they kept it really simple and effective. Like I said, it's just the default favorited daily. So they created a donation page that made it so easy for their supporters to give without any extra hassles or friction. It made a really big impact for them. You're eliminating all those extra choices and fields so that there is no friction. And I think that this really proves that education is empowerment and the right tools are empowerment, right? You can unlock amazing generosity during Ramadan, and getting recurring donations is one thing, right? But it's ensuring that you maintain your donors' trust that is so important. So you're making the giving process easy, but what are you doing to maintain that relationship? When someone commits to a recurring gift, they need to feel confident that they are in control, right? And that's why Donorbox makes it so easy for donors to manage their giving on their own terms. So once they donate and they create that recurring donation, they can create a login and access their donor portal anytime, which allows them to pause or increase or decrease or cancel the recurring plans, whatever they need to do, right? We hope that it's just increase and continue. But that means that there's complete flexibility for them. And that means hands-off recurring gift management for you so that you don't have to log into the back end and manage those donations. And for those who may not prefer to set up those automated recurring gifts and create that login, there's another great option, which we call Quick Donate. So this feature lets donors give, again, in just a couple of clicks right from their donor portal. So it just makes daily giving even easier in the last 10 nights. So I want to take a look at how this looks in action on the next slide. And I think I've slowed this down to 0.75. Hopefully it's not moving too fast for you, but it's on a repeat. So when a donor is ready to give again, the process is so incredibly simple. All they have to do is log into their portal, navigate to your organization's campaign, and then from there they can choose the same amount to give or adjust their donations as needed. And they can even add a comment if they like. I love those little comments that come in. I think that's just a really nice touch, right? That's just another way of giving and making people feel good. And I think the best part here is that once everything looks good, they can just give in one click without having to re-enter any payment details, any of those extra fields, right? So it is so fast, it's so seamless, and it's designed to just make generosity as effortless as possible. So you're seeing a theme here, right? We are making it easy and we're making sure that they are feeling entrusted and empowered with how they are giving, right? We want to empower folks to do that. And again, this just makes giving during the last 10 nights effortless, but what about after Ramadan, right? How do you keep the momentum going and turn those generous moments into long-term impact? Because that's what we're all looking for in the nonprofit space, right? Is that sustainability. It's that relationship that keeps on growing. And one powerful way to do that is by using our recurring upsell feature to transform one-time donors into long-term supporters. Now, recurring upsell sounds like a lot of jargon, so I'm going to explain how it works for you. This is, again, another pretty cool nudge in like how we operate in our own behaviors when we're doing shopping, whatever that may be. It's just a gentle nudge to point folks in the direction and the behavior that we hope to see. So when a donor selects a one-time gift on your donation form, they will be prompted to upgrade to a monthly donation at 50% of their original amount. So while a smaller monthly gift might seem like a moderate ask, it actually adds up in a really big way. Recurring donors give up to 42% more per year than one-time donors. We love our recurring donors. We want to retain more donors, right? So for example, if someone donates $50, they might choose to actually upgrade to a 25 monthly gift instead. So over the course of the year, instead of that one-time $50 gift, that's $300. That is 6 times their original donation. That's pretty amazing, right? So by making it easy for donors to sustain their giving beyond Ramadan, you are helping them continue their generosity while building that long-term support for your mission, and you're making it a no-brainer. It is simple math. It's right there laid out in front of them, and it's as easy as a click.
And I really appreciate like this focus on the ease of giving, because I know a lot of us have either worked in or supported or even given to a charity where it's hard to give, where the form is really long, where the kinds of behavioral science triggers that actually make us want to do something that we already want to do but makes it easy for us to do it are not there. And I mean, like, I think of it like this. We are already as Muslims, recommended to give daily. We are already as Muslims recommended to give weekly on Jum'ah. We are already as Muslims recommended to invest monthly and take stock monthly of ourselves and our community and our family and the things that we care about. But doing that is another chore on the desk, like, or another chore on the list to do. And you know, when we're concerned about, okay, it's a month where everybody's asking and we're asking all the time and it's too much asking. And this is what I hear. And I honestly, Jen, I hear this. I work with Muslim shops day in, day out, and I hear this, well, we can't ask again, or, well, we sent one email at the beginning of the month. We should not send to the end of the month. And the answer is that if it feels easy and it gives value and it's ethical and community based and trauma informed, it doesn't feel like a burden to give because it's not meant to. Religiously or culturally, as I mentioned from the very beginning, Muslims, while we don't come from this culture of asking, we very, very much come from this culture of giving. And so, like when somebody comes to you asking if they can do something, and you are thinking, okay, well, sure, the answer that is in your mind is like, okay, but how can I help you do that?
Yeah.
How can I make it easier for you? And so I'm really sold on, any tool, to be honest, that makes it easy for a donor and meaningful for a donor to engage in what they are either religiously obligated to do, spiritually compelled to do, or emotionally feeling like is a thing that they're engaged and involved in. And so that brings me to, the next cliff, which is actually about how we give. And this is, this webinar is very focused on the donor experience, because a lot of us have seen that, since, especially since COVID, the economy has rapidly digitized, and so much of giving has shifted online. In fact, my story is that I specialized into what I call digital era fundraising 10 years ago, when KCI Philanthropy, which is a big, Canadian philanthropy outlet, released a stat that said all forms of giving are on a year-over-year decline except for digital. So, I am very interested in how digital media, digital tools, digital storytelling, digital outreach and organizing are used to help mobilize resources for good organizations like community masjids, like large global NGOs, like who are doing international aid and relief. And so I want to talk then now about this kind of next cliff in the donor experience, which is about how do I give? So if you have done any online shopping in the last year and a half, you've seen that there's this like really interesting increase in payment options that we've never seen before. So, now when you do any kind of shopping, you're getting opportunities like Afterpay and Klarna, as well as PayPal, GPay, Apple Pay, etc. Um, and what we're finding in donor experience design and in donor experience science is that the fewer options for payment that are available to the donor, the less likely they are to give. So in the two examples here, you can see one on the left and one on the right, and this is a next, after, and fundraise up study. PayPal was not offered as an option. So I'll zoom in, you can see give now, and it's just your credit card. And then you look at the second one, a few different offers. You can pay with your card, pay with your bank account, and you can pay with PayPal. Um, Research performed by Next After, who performed this split test, found that 20% of the users chose PayPal. And that actually increased the conversion rate to by 6.6%. So a recent study, by Fundraise Up, found that 20% of Android users are choosing Google Pay when given the offer. They had predicted when putting this into practice that including Google Pay on Google enabled devices will increase conversion by 2.2%, and they found that that's what happened. And they saw a similar trend with Apple Pay, where 21% of iOS users are choosing to use Apple Pay. And they had made some projections and found that Apple Pay, adding Apple Pay choices on iOS devices will lead to a 1.2% increase in conversion, not inversion. It's a different thing. Thank you for laughing, Jenna. Now I feel less embarrassed
Okay.
about. We're trying to get a lot of good information out to you guys in a short period of time. So forgive me if the words don't come out right. Um, but so the key here, and I think Jenna has like talked about it quite a bit in terms of this tools, like this suite of tools, is that the easier it is to give and the more options available to the donor, where they have what's called user control. So if you ever do user experience design school, you'll learn about the theories of user control. When the donor or the user feels in control of their gift, they feel better about doing it. So the key here is to offer several payment options on your giving page. So and knowing that doing so is not going to take the donor away from giving, it's going to actually increase their giving potential. And yeah, Jenna, tell me what you think about this from a donor box perspective. Like I'm curious what you guys are finding.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head here. And it's not just offering payment options because people expect it, because it's convenient. It is it's optimizing those conversions. And that sounds so techy, right? You are helping people complete their gifts and you are meeting them where they're at. They are able to give in a way that feels meaningful to them, that feels convenient for them. You really want to be meeting folks where they are. And that's exactly why we've created Donorbox Ultra Swift, right? It takes the same theory. So it streamlines the process of giving Zakat or Zakat and with fast and seamless digital wallet payments, including that Apple Pay, right? The PayPal, Google Pay, and Venmo. I don't know about you guys. I'm a millennial. Anytime I have to give money to anybody, it's Venmo. It
You know
is.
what?
You know what I mean?
Jenna, I actually worked with a US-based shop at year end, and something like 20% of our year-end gifts came from Venmo. It was
Yes.
wild, and it's exactly that. Like their audience was a justice-oriented millennial audience in U.S.
Yes.
metropolitan regions, and so having Venmo available made a difference because that's how people were so familiar of giving to each other. It's literally the same thing. You're giving to your friend, and it's that same. Whether it's a religious or cultural, spiritual, whatever. Give to your neighbor, give to your friends, give to your family. If you're doing that through Venmo already, doing that to the masjid or doing that to the Islamic school, doing that to the International Relief Organization, it's all the same kind of user and behavioral experience.
Exactly. And we want our organizations to feel like our friends, right? So and with Ultra Swift Pay too, what I love, again, millennial, right? I need to be like in situations where it's only convenient. So you don't have to enter those personal details, right? Like the name, the email, your address, because these fields are already populated because you're already using these tools or your donors are already using these tools, right? So it just makes the process so fast and so frictionless. All they have to do is click the way that they want to pay, which is amazing. So they can select the donation amount, the recurring interval, their payment method, and they are done. And this is 4 times faster checkout. It reduces those drop-off rates, and it just ensures that people are completing those donations so that your donors can help you maximize your impact, right? They are just giving in a way that is so convenient for them, and you're meeting them where they're at, which means you're listening to them.
And I really like this discussion because we've already discussed why people give. We know it's emotion, we know it's connection, we know it's storytelling, we know it's relationships, which we're going to talk about in depth later. And so this question of how to give and how easy it is to give, it makes these kinds of experiences feel more seamless. In Ramadan, at any given moment, there's a child screaming and needs attention, or an event that has to be gone to, or a meal that has to be cooked, or a nap that needs to be taken because it's like a long work day and no one's eating. So to just reduce the stress and the time that it takes to fulfill your charitable desires or obligations through these different methods that are very much based in behavioral science, I think is really brilliant. And so I really stand by that as a method of increasing your number of gifts, increasing your conversion rate of gifts, increasing your ability to actually focus on what matters, which is the relationship with your donor and the work that you're doing in the community or overseas with your organization. And so in that, with that in mind, talking about how Muslims give is really, really important here. That Muslim donors typically and not always, but often do not want any form of public recognition. So there's a hadith here, which is a parable or a story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it says there are seven of whom Allah subhanahu wa taala will shade the light. Shade on the day of judgment. A man who gives in charity and hides it, such that his left hand does not know what his right hand gives in charity. And this is quoted in Sahih Muslim in volume 2, page 493, hadith 2248. And so what you'll find is that a lot of Muslim givers follow this, this principle in giving. They don't want, they don't want the donor care officer, they don't want the person who's asking, they really don't want anyone to know how much they're giving. And to be honest, this is why a lot of donors find themselves giving to platforms like, Launch Good and My 10 Nights, is because it's just like automated daily sadaqah and no one ever knows who you are. Now, this allows them to give in larger amounts without feeling like they're doing it for show. So, if you have a major giving officer, a donor care coordinator who are making your asks, you may find that they're getting a no when the donor actually does want to give. And so that's just because, as you can see on the slide, Muslims are, encouraged to give quietly and without any kind of fanfare. So this is knowing this and understanding this helps you move away from just transactional. We're asking people to give in a very, in a way that feels maybe cheap, to understanding the needs of the relationship, which are for Muslim donors a need to give privately. And so one of the reasons that when I was approached by Jenna and the team to jump in on this, I said yes, is because this is where something like a kiosk at your location can be a game changer. um, Jenna, I'm curious to hear, tell me about this kiosk. How is it working? I know you've got it in masjids across America right now. Tell me what's happening there.
Yes, yeah. And that's such an important thing to think about, right? It's creating a space, right? Creating a safe space for people to give it away. Again, that is meaningful for them, that feels right for them. And like you said, that's how a giving kiosk like Donorbox kiosk can be a really wonderful, awesome option. So we have an amazing organization, the Islamic Center of Passaic County in New Jersey, for example. They wanted to give their community a way to donate quickly and discreetly in 5 seconds or less, right? With just a simple tap. So in just 4 months, ICPC saw an 18% increase in donations, bringing in an additional $40,000 just by adding the Donorbox Live kiosk across their 3 campuses. So now they're engaging donors and accepting donations 24/7, even outside of prayer times. This is a 24/7 donation machine, right? We can't all work 24/7, and I hope that you're not, and this will work for you, right? So to make giving as easy as possible, they stationed 2 or 3 kiosks in their high traffic areas and their lobbies, their prayer halls, their main offices, and it just allowed donors to give privately and effortlessly, right? And it's so easy to set up. I know that tech can be intimidating, especially when it's a physical piece of tech, but this is all you have to do. You can download the Donorbox Live Kiosk app onto an iPad or an Android tablet. You can pair it with a card reader to accept donations via card, even smartphone or smart watches. That's the part that I love, right? Talking about being discreet, just tap your watch and move on, right? And then you just keep the donor relationship strong. So you can collect their optional donor details, like their name, their phone number, and their address, if that's something that they would like to share, so that you can steward them, that you continue to thank them, that you can continue to storytell, show how that donation made an impact. Like I said, it is so fast, it's discreet, it's effective, and it's just creating a space for people to give that feels right for them.
I really like what you mentioned about this kind of the watch specifically, because, for those of us who go to Jummah, and, I'm a woman, I have a woman-led team, so we do work on Fridays, since women are not obligated to go to Jummah, but, some of our, a lot of our clients are either running Jummah Salah or going to Jummah Salah, so that they don't work on those days, but we know that the culture around Jummah Salah, or the culture around Eid Namaz, or the culture around the masjid is very communal. So when you're in the mosque, you're not usually alone. You're talking to people, you're connecting with community members, maybe you're saying salam alaikum to everybody. And so to be able to discreetly slip away, tap your watch and move on, it really does, like, I feel that the kiosk personally, and I'm not, this is not a, I'm not here to pitch you on anyone's product specifically, but what I will say is that knowing the culture and knowing the community, this is meaningful, this is easy, this is made, it feel to be genuine, genuine Jenna. I feel like this is made with our culture and our needs in mind. And so I'm grateful, and like I said, I'm grateful the chance to kind of share not just the kind of theory and the tactical aspects of how to do this work, but what tech and tools might be possible to make it happen in a way that is community, that's made around community needs. Like, that's good donor experience design based on the need of the community, on the needs of the people, and not in a way that is exploitative. So speaking of that kind of question of exploitation, anyone who's ever donated to a charity or been over asked, really for anything, but especially monetary pieces, have felt like an ATM. And that's like really not a good place to be emotionally. It inspires resentment, and that's the opposite of giving. And so, and I appreciate, Jenna, that you continue to mention, and we've talked a bit about relationships and stewardship, but you really like carefully said it in a nice way, because too often gifts are processed maybe through automated tools, and then are ignored, right? Or the tools themselves are set up so that it's automated and you never know the donor, which to me is a no-no, because fundraising is about relationships, and is to be about people and communities. So I've got here on the screen something from someone I really respect. This is Mike Dukerson from Build Goods Fundraising Flywheel, and it's a really incredible way to understand how you should be keeping your donors engaged, involved, and connected, with the eye to long-term stewardship and retention. We are all, no matter what organization you're in, losing donors doesn't feel good. Attrition doesn't feel good. So, if you are an organization that is a Muslim organization, or an organization that's already Zakat eligible and ready to bring in your fundraising, you should consider yourself on this, this engaged portion of the fundraising flywheel. You have already asked, you've celebrated your report, you're engaging here in prep for Ramadan appeal season. And so what does that mean? It means that it is the time, 8 days before Ramadan, it's time for you to nurture community by getting together, communicating, sharing, asking for feedback, and building participation. What does that mean? That means that, we you talked about the Zakat calculator, and I give you that stock email. Before sending it out, send out a survey to all previous donors and ask them to share their feedback on your programs and one thing they would like you to see you focus on in Ramadan and beyond, and then use those words and phrases to help you tell the stories that resonate with their hopes and dreams for your work. And most importantly, do the things that they're interested in. And if you frame your survey well, and I have a stock survey that I use for my organization, so all of our pre-Ramadan surveys went out this week. So if you want to take a look at it, book a call with me after this, and I'll send it to you. I'm happy to give these kinds of things, because everybody should know and be able to do this. But the way you ensure they don't feel like an ATM is that you engage them in real human two-way conversations. That pair, Jenna, like what we're talking about, which is seamless, automated, donor experience design, with authentic, human, culturally and spiritually sensitive relationships and community experiences that are at the heart of what giving is about, whether it is religiously motivated or otherwise. Although, as I did mention in the beginning of this presentation, that donors of faith statistically give much, much more. So if you're a non-Muslim organization looking to engage this audience for the very first time, you're looking at an audience that likes to give and believes in giving. So how do you deal with this? How do you do this? How do you continue to kind of combat this question of, am I just an ATM? Well, that kind of goes to the celebrate portion of this flywheel. And I really love this flywheel. If you don't know Build Good, look them up. They're amazing. And this is where you're going to be after Ramadan gifts are made. So you want to consider yourself on the celebrate portion of the flywheel. And what that means, and I'm just going to zoom in again. I really like to zoom and enhance, as you can see, for those of us who were CSI watchers in the past, zoom enhance was never real. You can't zoom enhance Anyway, I'm going to keep going. That was such a niche joke. Thank you for smiling, Jenna. I appreciate you. But once your gift is made, your Ramadan gift is made, whether it's through a kiosk or whether it's through an optimized conversion, a conversion optimized landing page and form, whether it's through a Zakat calculator funnel, as we talked about in this presentation, you really want to thank people for who they are and for being this best version of themselves through their giving. We get rewards in Ramadan through giving. We feel good to give. That's why people give. People don't give for anything other than because they feel something. And so nothing feels better after you've done something that feels good than to celebrate. So ways that you can celebrate your Ramadan donors to really start to think about what does a relationship beyond Ramadan look like. I would highly recommend, and our team recommends to our clients, and in fact, we even have a donor care officer on our team. So if you don't have a donor care officer and you need someone to call your major and mid-level donors, that should happen within 48 hours of the gift. So what that means is once you are using a good tool that gives you live reporting, you will see gifts come in, inshallah. And within 48 hours, you really need to call a major or mid-level donor. And this is different for every org. A mid-level donor for some is 500 to 5,000. For some, it is 1,000 to 10,000. And a mid-level major may be 5,000 plus, 10,000 plus. But if someone has taken that kind of money and invested it in you, it's like someone literally gave you that gift in your family or in your friends or in whatever. You're going to give them a phone call like this. It's not an automated thank you kind of situation. um, and then although this is a largely digital experience discussion, handwritten cards make a really big difference. So I actually just recently received a handwritten card from a former teacher of mine who taught me in fundraising school. I went to fundraising school 10 years ago, the only accredited fundraising program in the country in Canada at that time. And he sent me a handwritten card and said, I really appreciate you and like what you're doing in the sector. And it made me feel something more than if he had sent me a text. And mind you, I did text him back, but I took a picture of it so that I was like, okay, it's but it's integrated. It's integrated. It's not just digital. It's not just analog. But a handwritten card does a thing, and Eid cards are normal. Those of us who are in family WhatsApp groups are getting 1,000 of those animated Eid cards. How do you, take a differentiate yourself from auntie in Pakistan who's sending this Eid card to her 5,000 WhatsApp contacts? A handwritten is going to make the difference. Jenna, I appreciate that you're like smiling and nodding along. Like, if you want, I will add you to our family group chat. You will get these. I will wish you Eid Mubarak.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
I have an aunt, Jenna, oh my God, who every single day sends an animated like GIF, like that's like, good morning, happy Tuesday, and like with a little cup of tea, and then she says a cup of tea for you. It's like the sweetest thing ever, but you get a lot of those and it doesn't feel the same as getting a handwritten card, right?
That's adorable.
Another thing that you can do is you can thank monthly donors by giving them a piece of swag with your logo on it. That's really beautiful. And I'm really bullish on branded monthly giving programs, especially in the post-Ramadan period. Typically, donors who are thanked within 48 hours and then asked again within 45 to 68 days. 45 to 60 days will give again. And if you have a new special exciting offer for them, like a special community exclusive donors who do this all year round and get this beautiful t-shirt or water bottle or whatever, it feels like something. It feels special and important, just like giving should. And the other piece would be celebrate big donors or big gifts. If folks are feeling comfortable with it through social media post, a blog on your website, inclusion in your newsletter. In Islam, the only time that the right hand should know, like the hands should know about the charity, is if it is in the purpose to inspire others to give. If it is in a way that its whole purpose is to inspire future giving for others, because you are seeking to lead the community by example. So in this case, you may have donors who are willing to be recognized publicly. So I want to go to the last, and I think the second last, and I think the most important one for me is, can I trust you? So I think everyone in this room has had their trust broken before. It's not a good place to be. It's just like such an essential part of any relationship, and especially the giving relationship. So for the non-Muslim organizations in the room who are launching their first Ramadan campaign, you really have to make sure your Zakat program is eligible. Get your scholar, ensure that proof point of trustworthiness. And any state, any country, there is going to be there's going to be a masjid, a mosque there, and a scholar there, an imam there that you can ask to look at your books and give you the stamp of approval. It's a really beautiful way to actually also show donors that you're engaged with the leadership of the community. You're not coming here in an extractive way. Okay, give us your zakat so that we can give it wherever. It's okay. I spoke to, I don't know, Imam Siraj Wahab, and he looked at the books and he said that this is it. So if you're here's a calculator. It all really makes sense both intellectually, emotionally, and then behaviorally. And so now, once this is done, this is your kind of first step. I mentioned some surveys. There's engagement surveys in the beginning for your Muslim orgs. For your non-Muslim orgs, instead of doing that engagement survey, you should send out a self-identification survey. So a little bit about this: you are mining for interest, not demographics. So you are not asking your donors or your donor base or your email list, "Are you Muslim?" It's like that's weird and uncomfortable and getting a little too close to forms for the government or whatever. So what you ask is, are you interested in learning more about our zakat and sadaqah programs? If they say yes, that's when you send them your Zakat calculator, and that's when you can begin your storytelling. And you can include stories of Muslim beneficiaries, of Muslim staff, of Muslim board members, and if you have no connection to Islam, share the story of why you are inspired by this moment of Ramadan, what this faith might mean to you, what this community might mean to you. That's enough to be trustworthy in the eyes of a donor and in the eyes of a community, especially a diverse and marginalized community, depending upon where you live. And the last and final cliff in the donor experience is, does it really make a difference? So after you are done, celebrating your donors, and you give that swag, that beautiful Eid card that is not an animated GIF in a WhatsApp channel. I'm adding you. Like, there's no question now. Like, you're in. And anybody else, Faye, anybody else in the chat, DM me on LinkedIn. I'll send you some of the copies. They're hilarious. I really love them. Like, that's great content. You move into reporting. One thing that we know about Muslim donors and Muslim giving is that transparency to the dime is critical. Impact to the dime is critical. So in the Muslim giving calendar after Ramadan, you're moving into Shawwal and Dhul-Qa'dah. So this means this is really good time for you to share outcomes, not outputs, and no real additional ask until you have a new and exciting offer, like that branded monthly giving program, etc. So, for example, an email or piece of mail that shares how their contribution led to a tangible and material measurable income. And if I zoom in on this, you'll see involve donors in the outcome of their philanthropy in ongoing, responsive, and real-time way. So send in an email being like, thank you for your gift. And also, pardon me, I'm gonna take a step back and explain outcome and then how you make it responsive. So outcome versus impact means impact is you helped 25 children get nutritious meals during Ramadan. So that's Children's Nutrition, the fake charity that I mentioned earlier. Outcome is your gift gave 25 children nutritious meals, and 85% of those will perform better in school because you gave them something healthy to eat. So, impact, 25 children fed. Outcome, they're going to perform better in school. That's something that the donor that's what the donor gave you. That's what the donor gave for. If you think about it from there's this nice, really great, Jenna, like I'm going to send it to you after. There's this like the Harvard Business Review TED Talk about this senior leader who stood who parked his car at a commuter route in the US and watched people go through a drive-through. It is the only drive-through for miles. And he had kind of predictions on what they might buy for their long drive. He was thinking, okay, maybe it was like an egg sandwich, maybe it was like a coffee, a donut, whatever. Is Dunkin' Donuts. And yeah, I'm remembering. I'm Canadian, so for us, it's like Tim Hortons. But it was a Dunkin' Donuts, and found that for that drive-through, 85% of shoppers were purchasing milkshakes. It's weird, right? Like who drinks a milkshake for breakfast? And he realized that the reason people were buying the milkshake is because it's slow to eat, long drive. It's non-messy in a cup with a straw. It doesn't get all over your clothes, and especially if you're a business person, you're trying to like look good, whatever. It doesn't deal with that. It melts slowly, and it's like cooling in a hot environment. So it's not like a hot coffee that you finish and you feel hot and you're sitting there in the dry for the rest of the day. And so he came up with this theory of the value proposition, which is that what is the job your customer is hiring your product to do? And as a fundraiser, when I'm applying that to organizational value propositions, I think, what is the job your donor is hiring you to do? What job have they brought you on for? That's how you determine if you can report back to them like they hired you to do something, you're going to show that you made a difference. And that's how we make it responsive and ongoing. When you report back to your boss, they give you feedback, right? Like they don't just take it and I don't know, like the comment and move on, or just hear it and go. They say, okay, great, now this is what you do next, now this is what you do next. And I'm not saying that donors are necessarily experts in programming, because that's not it, but it's that you invite their responses. So for example, your gift gave 25 children nutritious meals. 85% of those will perform better in school because you gave them something healthy to eat. What do you think? Hit reply and let us know. Easy. Such a simple shift that makes this a responsive experience. And especially if you're engaging a community who have never engaged before, asking for their input makes them feel good. Like when Jenny, you asked me how I feel good. I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell me more about engaging and recognizing your donors.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say, and I love this whole segment because I always say that fundraising is actually like 10% asking for money and 90% communicating, right? That is so, so, so important. And I think that that's sometimes where there is a disconnect. We actually have something very similar at Donorbox called the 5 A's of awesome fundraising. We love alliteration because it's just easy to remember, right? So it's, you attract new supporters to your organization, and then you ask them to come alongside you by giving. You acknowledge supporters promptly and personally, right? It's not just an automated thing. And then you account for those gifts by showing the impact and the outcomes. And then you do it again and again and again, right? That communication piece is so key and something that is missed because it's hard to keep up with, right? There are so many other things that you're working on in your organization. And sometimes that communication piece, though it's so incredibly important, can fall off, be put on the back burner, right? We know how important that is for stewardship. It's about keeping your community informed and involved so that they feel like they're part of your community. You also mentioned something about swag for monthly giving. It's partly because people love a free thing, right? But it's because you're creating a community. It's a club. They give on a monthly recurring basis. They all have matching hats. Sweet. I am now part of a community. You've created a community, right? And I think that's too why Donorbox has created tools to make this communication process much more manageable. We realize how hard it is to keep up sometimes, but we also recognize how incredibly important it is, right? So we've created Donorbox CRM, and we have a built-in mail center and something called JAI. And this is how you can streamline your donor communications to keep that connection alive and to keep it personal, right? Because if you're communicating to everybody, you're not really communicating to anybody. So it really helps you personalize your outreach. So you can connect your Gmail or your Outlook accounts into our mail center, and then you can prompt JAI, which is this cute little bird here. You can ask Jay, hey, craft a quick, thoughtful thank you message for a compelling fundraising appeal, right? This is a prompt. You can customize this, personalize it, add your flair, add your voice. And all you have to do after that is simply copy and paste Jay's response into the mail center and press send to your specific segments, right? To your groups. So this not only simplifies the process of writing and sending emails, but it also ensures that all of your communications are saved to each supporter's profile. My nonprofit job before this was at a DV shelter. We did not have a good process for communications. And I remember this, we were so busy one week. And I sent out an email to a couple of major donors to thank them for their in-kind gift. But guess what? 2 other people who were working in the main office did. They did it too, right?
Oh,
and thank goodness it was just a, hey,
God.
thank you. And so they got lots of thank yous.
Yeah.
But how embarrassing, right? That
And if it's an ask to a major donor, 3 people are asking you, you're like, why do I give here again? Like, that's
Exactly.
serious.
Imagine if that was an ask,
That's
right?
real.
So we offer these tools, right? So that there's transparency between team members. You can see all those communications within your supporters' profiles so that it is so seamless that you're not making these funny little mistakes or really big kind of embarrassing mistakes, and that you're engaging folks in the right way. And I will say too, what I love about JAI, not just because his name starts with a J like mine, but it helps you manage your inbox by summarizing and prioritizing unread emails from the last 7 days. Right? I know it's a busy time. Your inboxes might be overflowing. I mean, let me know in the chat. Are you a 0 inbox by the end of the day type of person? Or do you have hundreds? I'm a 0. Yes, I am a 0. Even if I haven't replied to it, I file it into a folder and I make a task for it. But I'll come back from a long weekend, and I have hundreds, right? Sorry, I know you feel me. So Jay,
I'm feeling it on my face over here. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, imagine if you had a happy little blue assistant that came and summarized all of these emails that you've missed from the last 7 days. That's way that you will never miss an important donor communication, ensuring that every supporter gets the attention that they deserve so that they feel valued and appreciated, right? So you can really just maintain those essential connections. So I want to go ahead really quick. I know we're running low on time. I want to show you what this looks like. I want to show you how Jay and the Mail Center work together in action. So first, you'll see in this little prompt, and hopefully you can see this, but we're going to ask Jay to help us write a thank you email for someone who donated during Ramadan. And then once we have that, it's thinking, right? We're just going to copy and paste what Jay crafted into an email in Donorbox's Mail Center, right? So we're going to go ahead, copy, paste the subject line. It gives you all that good stuff. And then
there's a PS too. This is decent.
Oh yeah, because folks,
good, yeah.
You read the PS first. You got to do the PS, right?
Yeah.
And then you can go in and zhuzh it. You want to customize it. You want to add in those variable fields. You want to add your own voice. But then to make it even better, we've utilized the groups feature in Donorbox CRM, which is your way to segment your supporters, right? For a special group for our Ramadan supporters, right? So this way we can easily reach out to all of them in one go. So you're not communicating to all your supporters for every single campaign. It's very customized, right? And that's it. So just with a few simple steps, we are all set to send out this email and just show our donors how much we appreciate their generosity and the impact that they're making.
No, I love this, and I appreciate you sharing these kind of like back end examples, because I think it's helpful. When I think about, and a lot of us think about AI communications, it's not the best, but I think like it's easy to see, and like I don't work for Donorbox. I'm tell you that right now. Like I work, but it's easy to see if you are a fundraiser and you write a lot and you communicate with donors a lot, that this is good work. And so I really appreciate you sharing. You can see I'm zooming in my eyes so I
Yes.
can get in
Okay.
there.
I'm not wearing my glasses today, so if I've gotten closer
right?
and closer. Well, guys, we have a few minutes, and Sarah had this beautiful idea to turn the spotlight on you, and that's what we really want to focus on during our rest of our time here together. We want to hear about your Ramadan campaigns, what they look like right now. We'd love to know what your biggest challenges are, what your pain points are. So you feel free to drop it in the chat, or if you're feeling comfortable, we can even bring you up on stage. You don't have to have your camera on if you want, but we'd love to hear your voice. We're always happy to see smiling faces as well to share your thoughts. So if you're not sure where to start, you guys, here are some prompts to consider, right? What fundraising strategies have you implemented during Ramadan this year or last year? Have you noticed any unique trends with your donors this year? Are there specific tools or resources you wish you had to support your campaign? Open forum. This is an amazing time to just hear from Sarah and get her thoughts.
Yeah, and if there's something like if you're working on your Ramadan campaign already and you're like, I want to optimize to improve, mashallah, I'm feeling really lucky. I have 8 Ramadan campaigns in market right now and really testing a lot of innovative things. So please drop something in the chat, or I know Jenna mentioned there's a way to come on stage if you'd like to, and share some questions, share some thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's as simple as, is my call to action clear? Am I asking the right way? Am I acknowledging gifts the right way? Could you take a look at this first line of this first email I'm going to send out? Lay it on us, you guys.
And if there's nothing, no stress, no pressure, it's more of an opportunity to kind of share where you're at, anything that you think you want to change, any feedback you want to give us. Like I said, impact outcomes and response. So if there's something that you have a thought on, please do raise your hand and please come up. And if not, we're just like really grateful to, and I'm especially grateful to have been able to share some of this, and I really really do hope that you are able to take some of these pieces and run. I think, noticing that, I think folks are, we've been here for 90 minutes, so I want
Mhm.
to let you know that we do have a couple exciting things for you. Jenna, maybe I can pass it over to you.
Sure. Yeah. And I know we're putting you guys on the spot. And please have peace of mind that there are ways that you can connect with us after when you do have aha moments that you want to follow up with us on. But before we do wrap up, we have a few special things to share with you. So, to help you maximize your in person giving this Ramadan, we are offering the Donorbox Live Kiosk add on for free the month of March. So, all you have to do to claim yours is sign up for Donorbox if you haven't already. And if you haven't, you can sign up for free. It's very easy. And I'm going to go ahead and launch a form. So all you have to do is fill out a few questions in this form before February 28th, which is perfect timing, right? So that you do not miss the chance to make giving easier and more impactful this season. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the link, and that will be live kiosk for the month of March for you. And then we love, like I said, education is empowerment. We love actionable, practical resources to get you through any season of fundraising, especially this. So because you registered for the session, we have a downloadable gift just for you. So this guide shares 5 actionable steps you can take to receive more recurring donations during Ramadan and beyond. And plus you can find email, social media, and appeal letter templates to inspire your outreach this season. So I will go ahead and launch that handout now, and you're going to see that in the upper right-hand corner of your screen under the handouts tab in just a second. So all you have to do is click and download. If for some reason you cannot, you can reach out to us, but we will also include this in our follow-up email. And
I
then
love
over
this.
over
Thank
to
you.
you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Jenna. Yeah, no, no. I'm just like really, I love this. And I can see 6 of us have already clicked to download. I can see 5 of us are already interested in the Donorbox kiosk. So really excited. Glad to see that we're taking things away. The goal of this is very much to have it be as useful as possible. And that's why I wanted to offer you all. I opened up my schedule next week. I know Ramadan is speeding to this moment. If you do have something that you want to chew on, you have an idea, you have a thought, that you want to build some strategy around, I'm offering a free 30-minute strategy session. So in 30 minutes, you will come with something that, anything that you are working on, any thoughts if you want to grow your revenue. Last year, we doubled and tripled our clients' revenue at year end and during key giving moments. And then we also were able to do the same in the pre-Ramadan giving season. So we're really looking forward to sharing that opportunity with you folks, how to double and triple your revenue. You can already see the strategies are here. It's oftentimes then how do we make it actionable? How do we put it into practice? And that's what you'll get in your 30-minute strategy session. And that's
Amazing.
it.
Thank you so much for offering that. I'm just going to book some time with you so we can hang out, really.
Jenna, I'm obsessed.
This
I'm
is
obsessed.
great. Thank you so much. Everyone here, I know we've had a few drop off. Thank you so much. I know it's a busy time. Thank you for finding time to dedicate to the session. We are so glad that you could be here with us. Again, if you have any questions, Sarah's link is down there in the bottom. I really encourage you to grab a 30-minute session and just pick her wonderful brain on all the things. And if you have any questions for us, you can reach out to us at support@donorbox.org. We are 24/7. Every single day of the week, we are here to support you in your fundraising journey. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for all that you do to help others. We're just so grateful to have you in our community. And Sarah, thank you. Thank you. It's been such a joy learning from you and working with you.
Thank you for having me. And folks, if you have any thoughts, any feedback, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Get in touch with us. We love the stuff. Jenna is obviously, is an expert in this work. I have been really lucky to be doing it for 12 years now. I was telling Jenna at the beginning of the session that I've never done any other job other than fundraising.
Amazing.
My story is I went to law school and then realized that there's no justice in the courtroom and that movements need money. So I became a fundraiser very early And this is my passion. So please do reach out, book some time, send a note on LinkedIn or by email. And thank you again. And thank you, Jenna. This is just so lovely. Really, really lovely.
It was our pleasure. Well, all right, everyone, go off and enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll send an email to you soon. Have a great one. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum, folks.